Hi, my name is Gora Shaker, and I'll be reading an excerpt from my story, Other Significant Others, a Glossary, which is in Nimrod's Spring 2020 issue, Words on Play. Other Significant Others, a Glossary. Brian from elementary school. His is the first hand to shoot up in class. His answer is prompt, precise, chock-a-block with words that don't yet fit in your mouth. When the teacher presses him, he confesses that he doesn't know what any of them mean. Still, you appreciate the gesture because you're all comic books and TV, and the big words slip through your fingers like water. You fancy running into him outside of school, in a traffic jam maybe, if your cars are held up at the same red light. A cousin distant enough for his name to seem out of reach. You watch Castaway together while the adults cook and sip wine in the kitchen. When you are asked about the film, you stumble and falter about a volleyball named Wilson. His recollection is stiff-shouldered, gnomic but full. His words goad you to remember he read a whole book at the store, but always bought a different one to take home. Kamal from 6th grade. You like him because he's the homeliest boy in 6th grade, and so maybe you stand a chance with him. You whisper his name in the bathroom stall to see how it feels in your mouth. Your tongue scrapes the back of your teeth. It feels clunky, wrong. You leave your diary in the classroom. When you come back for it, he's standing on top of your desk, diary in hand. A performance for the boys. Banker from Fontana's. The shows are never good, never not awful at Fontana's, but you go and you keep going because your editor pays you to witness jam bands and furries and bankers with Zegna ties dangling around their necks like nooses. Like running knots the executioner didn't have the heart to tighten. And when he offers you a drink, you pull your sleeves down to hide the double X's marked on the back of each hand. You go home with him because he's cute and stupid, but also because the summer is fetid and you cannot afford a fan, and you are scared to walk across Jackie Robinson Park at night, and he probably has air conditioning. Ben Goldfield. What's the worst thing you've done lately, he says. I snuck out of a date's bathroom window, you say. He tells you you're cruel and fun, and that makes you feel good until it makes you feel small. Brendan. You put so much thought into getting ready. You wear the perfect shade of red lipstick. Not the kind you can pick up from a drugstore aisle. The real kind, the kind that requires you to forego the weekly pack of cigarettes. The cheap ones invariably dissipate into an unseemly pink after a cup of coffee. He notices. Cigarettes don't matter anymore. You have a brand new pastime, more fulfilling than smoking on the stoop, watching drunk college kids fumble down Christopher Street over the weekends with a 60-something Cypriot doorman who offers you unsolicited advice about men. You don't need advice now. You are 19. Brendan opens the door, you climb into the cab, head to a bar in Bowery to meet his iBanker friends. You, of course, at 19, don't go to real bars with 3-part drinks. You go to the dives, the god-awful midtown pubs your friends drag you to every other Thursday night, the little holes in the wall on Essex. You're stopped at the door. The bouncer looks at your ID, then your face, and then the ID again. He snickers slightly before he asks you to head back home. You watch Brendan disappear through the doors and into the bar. He glances at you through the glass windows, sad. He shrugs, like he's guilty, but no, not sorry. You stand outside waiting. He doesn't come back out. He stays. It starts to rain and you feel like every kind of fool. The rain falls on your lips, turning scarlet to crimson and crimson to blush, the same shade of humiliation that permeates your cheeks. You remember how you read once that regret is a luxury, but nothing about this feels luxurious, and you wish you'd bought the cigarettes instead. Drenched, you begin the descent home, stilettos in hand. Some nights, getting ready is the best part. Eddie's boss from the pizza place who asks Eddie to set you and him up. Eddie's boss steps out of the pizza place and takes you to another pizza place exactly 1 block down. He orders for you. He knows the owner of the establishment. When he reaches for your hands across the table, you retract. Would you travel with me, he says. I just met you, you say. I couldn't stop thinking about your eyes, he says. They're not mine, you say. What's not yours? You look down at the belt you're wearing. It's Brendan's. Georges Dubois, who still worked at Tumblr in 2014. French girls would never agree to walk in the rain like this, he offers. This irks you, but you walk home with him anyway because you still don't have air conditioning in your basement apartment. And when you get to his midtown condo, he spends an hour pronouncing happiness like a penis and another pointing out the grammatical inaccuracies of your bad tattoos. When you use the bathroom, you slide down the window and sneak out the fire escape and climb down, down, down till you run out of stairs and you never come back. It's still raining outside when you get on the L. Guy from Release Party, who tells you his favorite Stones song is, "If You Really Want to Be My Friend," and it makes you sad. He looks like someone you once knew who looked like a young Johnny Cash. You crush cigarette after cigarette outside the release party neither of you were invited to, and when he looks at you, his eyes get wet and shiny and snake-like. Before he leaves, he tells you he could never fall for a girl who smokes. Santa. I saw you kissing Santa, Elise sings. You mean Scarface? You ask. No, Santa, she says. You don't remember. Scarface. You meet him at a Halloween party. Veronica Sawyer, you say, pointing down at your blue tights with a smoking hand. He introduces you to his friend, who has blue ink running down his nose. Adderall, he explains. Oh, you say. You don't get it. The Good That Won't Come Out by Rilo Kiley. You watch the stations morph into one continuous blur. I do this thing where I feel I'm real sick, but I won't go to the doctor to find out about it, because they make you stay real still in a real small space. Jenny Lewis's sultry sibilance worms into your ears, blowing despair about the modern age. The compressed snare dissolves into the tracks above the MTA announcements. You stare into the sea of strangers clinging onto the roof of the subway and let them drift into your peripheral vision. The ground disappears. Hands turn to dust. You feel inspired to go out and embarrass yourself by getting drunk and falling down in the street. Adrian. Is there fish in the fish sauce? Adrian asks. There is fish in the fish sauce, you say. You watch him study the blood orange liquid with suspicion before setting it back in the cabinet. He tosses the vegetables in the pan with soy sauce. You fall asleep to the sizzle. When you wake, the sky is electric blue, and when you wake, you peel off the covers that weren't yet draped over you when you fell asleep. You stare at the curtainless windows, thinking, it's morning where Declan is, and the last picture he sent you was of him in the garden, reaching out for the last apple on the branch of the tree. The apples, he said, would be pressed into juice. The apples must be crushed and pressed, and now you are too. You walk to Adrian's room, and the door is closed. And when you open the door, you find he is asleep. And when you wake him to ask if you should leave, he is as closed as the door to his room. Declan, who proposed to you after buying lottery tickets online. It's spitting rain, and Declan lends you his orange windbreaker. You hike up to Cater Idris. You're tired and mad, and he rolls you a cigarette in secret and kisses you and says, Merry Missmas. You take the train a week later, hours after his breakdown, after both of you drink way too much of a Fonz homebrew on New Year's Eve, and Declan wakes up screaming at you and demanding to know who the fuck you are. On the train, you both hold on to your paper bags, communicating slightly and only in sighs, in case the beer resurfaces or one of you brings up last night. You watch the mountains roll away and feel scared. You don't say much to each other from Machynlleth to Shrewsbury, but in Birmingham, you wake with his head on your shoulder, and on New Street Station, you sit down and weep. Jonah. You climb back into bed and let him drape his arms around you. You restrict bodily movement and lie with your eyes wide open. In the morning, you feel at ease stroking the back of his arm, your fingers rising and falling like white caps over his stretch marks. And when you find that the marginal comments in his paperbacks are written in soft cursive, you feel like you could baby love him. He tells you your face is beautiful, like a painting, he says, and then looks at you strange and urgent, and when you say what, he blushes and starts sentences he never finishes. After you press him, he finally asks, how many How many what, you say? How many other significant others, he says. You don't answer him. You just smile because you are cruel and fun, and he is struck by his unconscious fondness for the exotic. You never hear from Jonah again. Sean from Gorilla Coffee. You think he's reaching out for your hand, but it turns out it was the lighter he wanted. Stranger Song by Leonard Cohen. The world is still asleep when the thought of dawn warms Cohen. It's true that all the men you knew were dealers who said they were through with dealing every time you gave them shelter. You're charmed into thinking he's talking about romance until he seductively reassures you. It's you, my love, you who are the stranger. You don't know what to do with yourself. You throw the record out and in apologetic rage, go out and buy it all over again. Thank you.